Royal Enfield Hunter 350 has the potential to be an incredibly impactful bike in Malaysia. I mean, let's face it, cafe racers today are a lot more about style and heritage than outright speed, which means it doesn't matter that the Hunter 350 only has a 350cc air oil-cooled single-cylinder engine that makes just over 20 horsepower and 27 Nm of torque. What matters is the way it looks, and there's no getting around it. The Hunter looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, it's not the first small capacity Royal Enfield motorcycle that they've brought into Malaysia. There's obviously the classic 350 and the Meteor 350, but neither of those really scratch my cafe racer itch. The Meteor, for example, is really chunky and a lot more like a cruiser, while the Hunter 350 has just the right proportions. It's very slim between the legs, looking almost like a baby street twin, and it comes in a bunch of different colors, including this Rebel Red colorway. It's also practical, with electronic fuel injection, 17-inch rims, and dual-channel ABS. Because it has a handlebar, it is also very comfortable with a riding position that will be familiar to most naked bike riders. That does mean it's not a particularly sporty riding position, but if you've got plans to be on this bike for more than 30 minutes at a time, your wrists will thank you. It'll even fit a fully grown human being on the back, and I like that it's still comfortable despite the sleek tail. Royal Enfield is also uniquely positioned in a sense that the brand is just a lot more desirable than any of the other affordable cafe racers you can currently buy in Malaysia. And it's not just a matter of pedigree either. The fit and finish on this bike is excellent compared to any of the other Chinese cafe racers I've tried. Everything from the switch gear to the paint job just feels well put together, and that goes a long way in making it feel upmarket.
Damn, nothing beats an analog dial, man. So good.
But it's not just the way it is finished, it's also about the way it feels and sounds. And I gotta say, with this MW Performance exhaust equipped, the Hunter 350 has just enough bark.
The exhaust wasn't stock lah.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Sounds like my CMC.
Yeah.
But more thumper.
Now, normally at this point, I would be including some onboard footage to show you just how this motorcycle rides and talk about how it feels on the road, as well as give you a sense of how it sounds when you really give it the beans. But we weren't allowed to film this test ride for some reason. I was able to come back on a different day to film, but the catch was this second bike that I rode was only equipped with the stock exhaust. I think the thing that's hardest for me to get used to was the lack of a tachometer. You get a really nice retro styled clock, but it doesn't show you your RPM. And when you combine that with this bike's red line of just 7,000 RPM, I actually found myself bouncing off the limiter all the time. The upside is that the max torque comes in low at just 4,000 RPM, so it's pretty peppy around town. It's nimble and easy to handle when weaving through traffic, which means that while it isn't a super sporty ride, it's plenty of fun. would like a little more top end or maybe a couple more revs, but I guess that's not really what this bike was made to do. Besides, we've already established that cafe racers these days are more about style than out-and-out performance. If you only want to go fast, you're probably better off with a modern faired bike or naked bike. But if you want to get anywhere in style, you're gonna be hard-pressed to find something that looks and feels better than the Hunter 350. That said, I do wish Royal Enfield did two things to their entry-level bikes when they brought them into Malaysia. Number one, I wish they made the engine come in below 250cc. That would have made it just infinitely more popular because then you wouldn't need a B full license to ride one legally. This would have also made things far more interesting because it would be going head-to-head with the other B2 compatible cafe racers like the Buccaneer 250 and even the Daytona Cafe Racer. And I think the Hunter blows all of that out of the water. Number two, they've got to find a way to bring the price down below 20,000 ringgit. You see, the Hunter currently retails for about 22,000 ringgit, which makes it just a little bit too expensive compared to the other entry-level cafe racers. And I know I said power was not important for a bike like this, but paying 22,000 ringgit for less than 30 horsepower feels way worse than paying 16, 17 or even 18,000 ringgit. Oh. Wow, got toolkit. If somehow Royal Enfield is able to launch a bike that looks and rides like the Hunter but hits these two sweet spots, I think you have an absolute gem on your hands. Otherwise, I think that this current Hunter 350 is just a little bit of an outsider looking in.
It's not for speed lah. It's not for speed lah. Tapi low end top ada, even though you are in 6 gear 40 km when you open throttle still got top. It's okay lah. It's a forgiving motorcycle lah if you're a beginner. Tapi if you on first gear nak gerak the top, need to be careful lah. Yeah.
That's the what, off-roading heritage.
Yeah,